Good morning, Kim. I'm so excited to have you on Rise today with me, and it's just wonderful to have you. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Hannah.
We have so much to talk about, and you have had an incredible journey. You have graced the covers of so many different magazines, and I'm so amazed at the work that you've done and continue to do on a day-to-day basis. And I think one of the things that I really wanted to ask you today is what keeps you going?
That's probably a really good question. I just feel that I have to leave a good footprint here in this lovely country we live in or world we live in. I just have a inner drive to teach. It's always been that way of this is what I've learned and this might help you. So it just seems to be how God wired me, and that's what makes me happiest. Partially, sometimes it's running and working out, and other times it's other things, but there is something that's just inside me that I've always been that way.
You do a lot of work in mentorship for younger women. And I'm kind of wondering what led you to really want to focus on that. I have some of my own idea of why I think you are, but I would love for you to share what made you so passionate about wanting to mentor younger women.
Part of it's a mothering, nurturing inside of me, whatever that motherhood. The other, and I had 3 sons, so I didn't really have daughters. I missed that. I do have my son has a fiance, so I will have a daughter-in-law. So, but until then, there's something that it's just, I want to spare younger girls some of the pain and heartache that I went through being put in the most bizarre, strange situations. And I didn't realize at 18, when I first got into the business from a little tiny town of 25,000, that I had this self-preservation inside of me where I just knew, nope, that's not a good idea, or nope, that's not a good situation. And so I kept myself out of many different problems. And I hear young girls now with problems, and I'm like, yeah, but if you just stopped it right here, it would have been. So there's this something inside of me that says that could have been easily addressed, but you went down that path, or you just chose this, or your ego got in the way, or whatever it is. And so I feel like I have advice. I'm not manipulative. I don't cram things down people's throat, but there's something about knowing, and you can't just be quiet if they're asking. You have to say, this is what I learned. And that as we age, the older generation needs to say, this is what I learned. This is how I handled it. This is where I see that you might need to make a change, or and you can't make a change, any of us in our lives, if we don't see that there's a problem. So helping to identify either the boundaries are off, or the self-esteem isn't there, or you have too much self-esteem. There's just different things to work with to be able to help these young people.
What do you think in terms of when you're speaking to these women, and I know you talk a lot about setting boundaries, you talk a lot about self-esteem, you also talk a lot about clean living, and we'll get into that. But what do you think is one of the things that you see the most from these younger women? I know one thing for me is body shaming, comparison, um, and lack of self-esteem, or like you mentioned, too much. What stands out to you the most when you're speaking to these ladies?
I think that most women have this internal dialogue, and I fight it also, of I'm not good enough.
Mhm.
I need to do more. I need to be more. I need to look more. And we're trying to keep up with something else. In a way, I have that, which is why I am clean living, is because I believe naturally, if I make those choices, I won't have the aches and pains as I get older. I don't want to be in pain. I want to be out doing stuff. So I don't want to slow down. And I think that some of the junk we put in our bodies slows us down. So I don't want disease. I don't want to be in a hospital. I don't want any of that. I don't want my kids to have to take care of me. I want to be out moving around and doing stuff. So all that plays into all of it.
Wow, what a profound statement. I don't want my kids to take care of me. In other words, the more we focus on the clean living, setting the boundaries, the less we will have to rely on someone else to take care of us. So it kind of talks, I mean, in essence, you're saying self-care is vital. So you have graced the cover of hundreds of magazines. You have written books, you have spoken across the country, you have done all these different things. And I'm wondering, how did you stay so true to the message that you just shared right now?
I have something inside me where I've never represented a product if I didn't believe in it. I'm not good at confrontation. I'm not good at lying. So if I'm on live TV and someone says, well, doll, you said that you represent this product, but so and so over here, whatever it is, I'm like, I can't handle that. So I have to stay true to myself and be authentic with what I believe in and what message I give. And I have to live it myself because you'll see right through it. I'm not good at lying. I don't think I'd make a good politician, actually.
I love that. So during your journey, and I believe you're still on one. I think you're just it's like the next chapter. But all of these years of all the different roles that you have played, what do you think the hardest part has been for you?
The hardest part for me has been transition, and I'm always needing to change. I was not in a business where I started it after college. Number one, I didn't go to college, so I didn't have those tools. So I didn't have a reliable job from the age of 22 or whatever it is up until my 60s. I was done modeling at pretty much 25, 26. And so then what do? You have to look around. Okay, now what am I good at? And then I went into broadcasting and I did like 10 years of that off and on, and now continuing to go back into it. But then I had to learn speaking, and then I had to learn writing books, and how am I credible, and how am I relevant, and how can I stay a voice that's someone wants to listen to. So that has been for me the hardest part. I'm not a startup company type person. I'm not. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur in a way, but I need help. I need people around me that have skills that I don't have.
I think that's so brave of you to say, I need help. So many women don't want to ask for help. So many of us don't want to share our vulnerabilities. But I actually think it's a sign of courage and bravery. And I think it's a sign of beauty. So you are doing speaking. And I think that when you get in a room filled with women or men, strangers that you don't know, what is the first thought that goes through your mind?
Number one, I prepare before a speech. I make sure that I know what the audience wants to hear because I've got so many facets of what I've done or what I can contribute to. So I have to be on point with what the audience is either expecting or wants to hear. And I pray about it. And because it's not about me being up on stage and look at me and this is what I've done and aren't I great? That's not what it's about. It's about how what I learned can help the audience. So coming from that perspective, I think just makes for a better interview because I'm there for them. I'm not there for me.
Do you ever find that when you're doing different speaking engagements or just being in a room, of people that you don't know, I always find when I'm doing things like that that I leave fed, that I'm not feeding them, but I leave with knowledge or I leave with inspiration or something. Like it kind of goes the other way. When when we're trying to share and pay it forward, I always feel like I left with so much inspiration and such a filled heart. Is that something that you have experienced throughout your journey?
I probably the filled heart, but it do better with feedback. You pour out so much of yourself, and if you don't get feedback from others, for me, it's kind of hard to gauge. You get in this very small zone or tunnel when you're speaking, and I find I sweat a lot, and it seems to take a lot of energy and focus. And so when I'm done, I'm kind of, in my mind, I'm a little wiped out. But when I start getting people coming up either to sign an autograph or get a book or whatever I'm selling or doing, then that's when it's like, wow, my life and my words affected other people for the positive. You don't get much negative, thank God. But yeah, that's a big one. That's rewarding.
Yeah. So what do you do in terms of preparation? I know you said that you prepare. Tell me one little thing that you do to prepare for things like that.
I have to ask whoever puts the event on what type of group it is and how they have pitched, or if it's a big conference and I'm one of the speakers, what's my role? What message are you trying to get out? That's the main thing. And then I can pivot with where I was in my career and go into the area that they need. One was, I think I was speaking to a bunch of race car drivers, and they wanted to know what it was like to be driven. So what drives you and what drives people? And so I had to take my career that was kind of thrown at me, and I didn't even seek when I was 17, 18 years old. I just kind of did it on a whim and had no experience with the beauty business. So to me, what drove me? What made me stay there instead of going back to college? And so that was pretty interesting, because you start learning about your own self and what really makes you tick.
How did you become this incredible, beautiful woman who graced the cover of all these different magazines, who became a part of the fashion industry? How did that happen?
I am not sure. It just had a life of its own. When I said yes and I gave it a shot, went to New York 2 days after I turned 18. I mean, I had to step out in faith and just step out of the boat, pretty much, and put my whole career and my life and everything I knew on hold, because I was a scholar, and I would bring home extra books just for fun and do extra homework just because I liked it. And I was in the concert band, and I was swimming, and none of those things really could roll over into the modeling business. Nobody cared if you had straight A's or if you were a fast swimmer, or if you were in New York City and a model. They wanted to see other things that I hadn't tapped into. So part of how I survive is always self-awareness and asking myself, am I doing the right thing? Am I in the right place? Do I need to change anything? All those questions of just, where am I? What am I doing? And what am I doing it for? I just must have been a very hard worker. My sons have a very strong work ethic on their own, whether someone's looking or not looking. Mm-hmm. And I'm a firm believer that God watches even when no one else in the whole wide world can see something. He still knows. So every single thing I do has to be above board, because I think we're accountable at some point to a higher being.
Have you always been faith-led? Is that something that you have been?
I grew up in church, and when I was 17, I was an elder of my church. I was a Presbyterian, and then went to New York City and didn't have that in my lifestyle because my mom wasn't taking me. All of a sudden I'm 18, I can do what I want. And so I had to figure out, what is that? What does that look like? How does it make you feel if you go off this way? So I did a lot of exploring and figuring out what worked. And I got to the point where church was good, and working out was good, and eating well was good. And that's how I felt better about myself. And I don't like to feel bad about myself. So I chose healthier alternatives.
So Kim the model, Kim the speaker. Let's talk about Kim the writer.
I don't know where that came from. I was not a big writer in school. I remember my mother having to type things on a typewriter in the kitchen table to help me. And I used to wait till the last minute. Just crazy. And now I think speaking helped with that because you've got to have at least something written out. But I started realizing that I had things to say and I
Mhm.
had some time. I started writing the ebooks probably 10 years ago. And I realized that Amazon had this great program that they would help you publish it and they would help you get it out there. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I just started writing, but I wrote like a term paper where I had this reference here and this quote was here, but this is, you know, it was all recorded. And Amazon's like, nope, it's not your original work. Nope, denied. And I'm like, wait, what? And so I started realizing Amazon on the ebooks wanted my opinion. So
Mhm.
I think, this is what I learned. This is how I did this. So it became more of my inner journey versus here's a fact and here's the study on this and this is what this says and then this is how I used it. So it just happened. And the more I started writing, the more I realized I have other things to say. So
I love to write. So what was the very first ebook that you wrote?
I was getting so many questions about how to model that it was my modeling book on how to be discovered. And because moms or whoever it was would write me fan mail, or my mother would say, oh, so-and-so Gladys down the street, her daughter wants to model, you know, so can you talk to her? No, I don't have time to talk to her. Go read the book. You know, you only have so much time in a day. And so I figured if I just stay it once, if it's written out once and it costs you $3 to go online, go buy it yourself. Invest some of your own money in it instead of all of my time. So that's where I first started. And then I'm like, oh, well, I have something to say here. And oh, well, I had problems here. And then you start realizing other people do too. And it's like, okay, well, this is what I learned and this is how it works for me. And I realized when I was pregnant, I don't know if you've ever been pregnant, but when you're pregnant, you lay in bed and you read about every different labor out there. You want to know how, right? How
Yes.
everyone else had a baby. Oh, they had theirs fast in 20 minutes. Oh, theirs was 3 days. And so you start because it was important to you. So you want to know everyone's story. So I figured this is the way I'm going to write. Here's what I went through. Maybe this can help you, or think about this, or maybe this alternative is good. So that's why and how I write my books now.
So out of the books that you've written, what is your favorite?
I don't really have a favorite. Probably the one that is most me is Cheat Eat, because I'm a big believer in healthy alternatives. And my mother was my poor mother, I'm really ripping her apart. She's a perfectionist. So when she would do recipes, everything had to be perfectly measured and she had to follow the recipe exactly. And if she didn't have one little thing, she'd run to the store and I'm like, just use that in the pantry. And so I realized my sister and I never measure anything. We dump things in. We try different stuff all the time. Makes my mother nuts if she watches us in the kitchen. But we realized that I'm a master at looking at the fridge, looking at the freezer, looking at the pantry. And I had 3 sons, and they would bring over linebackers and, you know, these huge football players with these appetites. They're like, Mom, we're hungry. Okay, well, I could put that with that and make that. And so I learned that I was good at just kind of throwing stuff together. That's just a strength of mine. And so if I wanted to cheat, if I loved chocolate chip cookies and I knew that I couldn't have a regular one, I'm going to use this flour and I'm going to try this sugar alternative instead. And then I'm going to use this healthy fat because I need my healthy fat. So, and I would start to create my own recipes by healthy substitutions. So that's probably one of my bigger passions is how can I make a recipe work for me? And I always change them. Never will I follow a recipe exactly.
I think that you probably have a really incredible knack for just making something good no matter what. But I think I'm not really a great cook, and in fact, my family gets very scared when I go in the kitchen. Um, my husband's the cook in the family, and My mom is from a culinary background. My grandfather is from a culinary background. My son went to culinary school. But when I hit the kitchen, bad things happen. And I think it kind of has detoured me, to experiment. But you make it sound so fun that I think I might want to take a stab at it again and just see. You know, I get stressed out when I go in there. And it's even my mother-in-law, when she comes to visit, she's like, "Oh, what are you doing, honey?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna cook." And she kind of gives me this look like, "Oh, my father-in-law, same thing, like the reaction in it's kind of a joke, it's
Yeah.
kind of a long running joke, but I think I'm gonna try again and see. But I love to see women embrace their passion, whether it's cooking, whatever it is, just having fun. And you just made it sound so fun. I want to try again and see what I can do.
Well, and
So,
there's certain sites, like if I'm looking for a recipe, my new newsletter coming out, I have black bean brownies.
oh,
Who would
wow.
think you could make brownies with no flour and use black beans? So I was looking through recipes to try a couple different ones before I did it. And then you see, like, in the comments below, well, I didn't have this, so I substituted this, or I did that. And I'm like, yes, look, they're doing stuff that I would, or, oh, I didn't think of that one. And so you kind of learn that there's some women out there that are doing what I do. They've got, oh, I don't have that, so I did this, or I wanted more coconut, so I added that. And so they're constantly tweaking like I am, and you learn that it's okay to do.
So, are you very interactive with your audience? Are you pretty hands-on?
Yes. I mean, yes. So daily, I am 2 or 3 times a day, I'm answering all the different questions, or, I mean, some of it is just that you're beautiful. So once in a while, it's like, thanks. But, it's my job to stay on top of that. And I don't hire it out to someone else. I'm the one responding.
I love that. Really do, because that is really being authentic. I think that's beautiful. Kim, when somebody does tell you, and you've probably heard it a million times, if not more, "You're so beautiful." How does it hit you? Is it different each time? Do you kinda, like you just said, "Oh, thanks." Like, do you believe it? Do you feel it?
Yes, because there's been so much feedback, but it's not important. It's
Mm,
a tool to get somewhere else. I
mm.
think the moment you start focusing on what your strength and your gift is, and thinking, number one, I'm not better than anyone else. And so the sooner you figure that out, I think the healthier your relationships are. So yes, maybe that's a given, but I don't need to focus on that. Thank you, but let's move on. What else am I doing? What else am I, as a human being or a mother or a wife? And that's what's important.
It's
So
deeper. Deeper. But I think, when some women don't know how to take a compliment. And that's why I asked you, because being in the beauty industry for as long as you have, doing tons of photo shoots and always having to maintain this certain image, I wondered, how does it feel when someone tells you you're beautiful or you're extraordinary, or how do you receive those, you
Well,
know?
you kind of just have to internalize it, because in my business, there was a lot of the other, where it would
Mm,
be just a look, and they might look up to down, head to toe. I had it yesterday. And it's like, ooh, honey. And I know what they're thinking. They're like, I would have chosen a different pair of shoes. And why is she wearing that dress? And what was she thinking of with her hair? So there's just, I mean, I get criticized when I go on Instagram. Honey, your hair's too long for your age, or you need to put on more mascara. Here's a video on how to put on makeup. I love that one. And so it's just like,
yeah.
I've been putting on makeup since before you were born. So, and it's not that important.
You know what's funny, Kim, is that the very women, and I know a lot of them have to be women who do this, who feel that they need to critique you or other women. It's so funny that they do that, because if they really saw the example that they're setting, if they really understood what they were doing, I think they wouldn't do it as much. When we're always constantly criticizing someone else, it's kind of a deflection. It takes the attention off of ourselves and puts it on someone else. And so I think how you're talking about it and how you're handling it is incredible. Because, in other words, yeah, thank you, but you're right. I have been doing my makeup longer than you've been alive, but noted. Moving on to the next.
Right.
So I
So a,
I
a
think
good a good tool for that I've learned is not to internalize certain words. You just let them roll off your back like water rolls off a duck, and you don't internalize it.
I agree. I was a makeup artist for 25 years. I worked in California and LA, and I would see these beautiful women coming into Elite, and they would stand them in a line and do the look that you described, looking them up and down, take your shoes off, stand straight. And I would see these women uh waiting to hear, did I make it? Am I going to stay?
Am
And
I
I
good
would
enough?
yes, and I would see, when they would look at him and say, "You stay, you go, you stay, you go." And I remember seeing these girls, young girls, and the look of disappointment. It was like when they were told, "No, keep going." And I would see their face and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, how much pressure they've put on these young women to have to deal with." It actually made me not want to be in the business
No, I
many,
get
many times over,
Yeah. Well,
and
if someone had done that to me, if I hadn't gotten in, discovered the way I did, I would have walked.
mhm,
I'm like, because I had other things to do. This was not my be all end all. I didn't live and breathe and grow up studying and wanting to be a model. And no, I had other things to do. So you don't want me? Fine. We'll go do something else. And I think that's a healthy attitude to have. And many of these young girls don't have it. And they don't even want to start out as a model. They want to be a supermodel immediately. The term has been so overused, it's goofy. So I'm now calling myself a master model.
oh, I love that. Master model Kim Alexis. You know what? We're gonna have to, yeah, I love that. That is awesome.
Yeah,
I love
I
it.
mastered it. Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
You be
You're right.
super, I'll be master.
I love that. For all you ladies out there listening and watching, I hope you just heard that. So you are a boy mom, and I have to ask. I have 2 boys, 3 girls. It's an incredible blessing, yet a challenge. They all
Yes.
have different personalities, but boy mom, talk to me and tell me some of the funnest moments you've had with your boys.
I mean, what's the most, well, there's lots of memorable, as you know, but fun ones are if one kid does something wrong or treats me wrong, the others are so protective. All I have to do is walk to one of the other ones and say, "Do you know what your brother just said or did to me?" And they'll go over and like, "What did you just do to mom?" So, right? And the other one would be, "Mom, watch this." So I said, "I want that on my tombstone." Over the years, it was like skateboarding or whatever sport. They were always outside. I had such outdoor boys. And so they were always doing different sports. And so it was like, "Mom, watch this," or "Mom, look at this," and they included me in. And now sometimes when I would watch, they'd mess up and they're like, "You made me mess up." I said, "You told me to watch." So just the idea of them wanting me to be in their lives and to to help them, but also to hands off. Like
Mm,
when they turned 18, 19, they have to be themselves. I didn't want a mama's boy. I always wanted an independent kid who felt good and confident that they could handle things on their own. So I'm not a manipulative, hands-on, guilt mom. I don't want that. And my boys know that. So, if they call me and say, "I got to go," I hang up the phone. It's like, fine. I get my ego out of the way. And that has helped me with my sons, at least, because that's the way I raised them.
I've been identified as a helicopter mom.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. You're the
Um,
opposite.
but it being a mom and being an entrepreneur and doing all these different things, one thing that really has stood out to me, and I think this based off of what I've seen researching you and just kind of following your journey, I see that you bring your children into what you're doing. And that's something that I've done, and it makes it even more joyous to be a mom, but to also bring them along for the journey of the things that we still want to do, things that we are doing, you know. It's a big
Yeah.
blessing.
Well, and when I traveled a lot, so my kids were in Florida a lot of times. In 11 years, I would go back and forth to New York City. And so sometimes they'd come with, and then we had an apartment where they had their own room, but other times it was that they stayed there. So I would tell them, I'm going up, I'm doing this money will pay the rent, and to let them be involved and realize, oh, well, mom's got to go up because we have to, pay the rent, or we want a new car, or whatever it was, to just try and make it practical, so that they had a goal of why I was doing what I was doing. So I don't know.
So you have mastered being a mom.
I guess so. My youngest is 29.
Really? So mine are 10 to 30. My oldest will be 31. It's almost kind of surreal to think like, wow, I have a 31-year-old. And I have a 10-year-old. They all have different personalities. And that was going to be my next question. They always say, we know who your favorite is. Who's your favorite? And I'm wondering, am I the only mom that ever gets that question? Do your boys ever say, Mom, who's your favorite? Do they
No,
put you on the spot?
no, no. They might not want to know the answer. No, I'm just kidding.
I always tell them whoever's in the room or who needs my most attention, but
Yeah.
I feel like it's a question that moms get asked. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, I think they probably do, just because boys love to see mom squirm. Don't you realize that? I
Oh,
mean,
yes.
they'd bring a snake into the house and they're like, Mom, just pet it. Just touch the skin. And I'm like, okay, I can either run screaming, which means they're going to chase me through the house with it, or I just calmly say, okay, nice. Yeah, it's a little dry. I didn't realize that they weren't slimy, right? And you don't react. Boys want you to react. So your boys are probably wanting you to say, what do you mean? Or
Oh, they
whatever.
get the reaction. I don't know.
See? You got to stop with the reaction, then they stop asking.
My girls too, though, they're the same. They love to get that mama reaction. And then when they get it, sometimes I think they're like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have did that. But so
Yeah.
what's next for you, Kim? What's on the horizon next? You have so much more life to live and so much more to give. What's next on the horizon for you?
All right. I've got a lot of irons in the fire, from executive producing 2 TV shows, 2 totally different TV shows, to mentoring women coming out of jail, to model mentoring, to working possibly as a professor or associate professor. So just a lot of things that I'll probably know the answers to in the next couple of weeks. But it's kind of fun to have. I mean, when you do, like when they give you those classes in how to project or get a back out in media, they want you to pick like one strength you have. I can't. To me, I was always multifaceted. I grew up swimming and in the concert band and in youth group and honor society and working in a drugstore. I mean, I did all those things every single day. So I've always done lots of different things. So it's not about me. What I'd say to people listening is find your strengths, find what your passions are. And if it's more than one, and if you've got the energy to do it, I would say do them all. Just do them all and contribute in any way possible. There's so many people that need so much help. They need guidance. They need a hug. Maybe they don't need any opinions, but they just need your time or a hug or whatever it is. So find that strength, find that spot where you wouldn't mind. I used to volunteer at the hospital all the time when I had more time. And I loved it because I was giving back. And it helps you take that focus off of you, and it helps you by focusing on others, kind of what you talked about when you were speaking, that you get that kind of a speaker's high afterwards because you've fed into other people. So find what you don't mind doing and where the need is in your community. And there's so many ways to help and so many people that need help. And you help them, you help you.
Well, I would like to thank you for coming on today on The Rise. And for those of you who are listening and watching, Master Model Kim, the author, the speaker, the writer, the mother, the extraordinary woman that she is. And a huge congratulations to you for being a leader of example. I'm very excited to continue to follow your journey and see where this leads next.
There you
And I
go.
really hope you do not stop, because there are so many women out there who are receiving such valuable information and time from you. And that is making a difference. So thank you for joining me today. It was really a great honor to have you here.
Oh, thanks, Hannah. I'm glad I could help.